Thank you very much for that introduction. And first of all, thank you very much for having us here to present to you today. As just said there, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Elliot Street. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Inovus Medical. And this is Jordan Van Vloot, my co-founder and our CTO. And as a business, Inovus Medical is on a mission to become the world's leading supplier of surgical training technologies. And you're going to see one of those technologies on the stage today. Before we do touch on those technologies, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a background. I don't have any slides because we're going to spend lots of time showing you lots of really exciting trailblazing tech. But as a background to this business, Jordan and I founded the business as a pair of students out of my bedroom in Fallowfield and out of Jordan's grandparents' double garage. And we've built the business now to a position where it's supplying over 70% of the NHS in 72 countries worldwide. So we're well on our mission towards becoming the world's leading supplier of surgical training technology. And before we get into the technology, one of the things I want to tell you about is the problem we are solving for surgical training. Now, surgical training is traditionally an apprenticeship-style approach, where we go in, we stand with a senior surgeon, and we learn things from them at the patient bedside. And that was okay 100 years ago when there was no technology to replace practicing on patients. But we're now at a stage where we need to be doing that learning curve in a slightly safer environment, and that is not at the patient bedside. And what we do is make simulators to allow you to do that. And we're not the first people to have made simulators. They already existed before we came along. However, they were using technologies like virtual reality, which are okay for simulating things like flying in an airplane, where we're simulating what we call macroscopic movements, so turbulence, for example. But we as surgeons are doing microscopic movements. So we're doing things like operating on blood vessels or little bits of soft tissue. And it's really hard to simulate how realistic that is using virtual reality. So what we've done is taken a contrarian approach to augmented reality. And you're going to see how we do that today. And this is a technology and an approach to augmented reality that's never been done before. So we had to invent this. I'm going to throw a few things into the crowd. So that I don't have to approach you in a COVID-secure approach. Who's good at catching? If you want to put your hand up. Yeah, I thought you would be. Anyone else in the crowd that would like to catch something as I throw it at them? Yeah, you two look like you're ready to catch something over there. Well done. And anyone else? Anyone else? I think that middle table over there looks like they've got someone that's going to take. Yeah, good hands. Good. So please pass those around. Have a little feel with those. These are the linchpins to our technology that you're going to see. And actually, there's 3 trailblazing technologies on stage. The first piece is hardware, which you've now got in your hands, and I'm going to talk through that a little bit. And then there's 2 elements of our software. There's this native application, which works with our hardware to provide our simulation and provide our augmented reality simulated technologies. And then the final piece is our learning management system. And that's a cloud-based web application, which is where we're aggregating loads of data and allowing surgeons to see how they're progressing with their skills. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk you through these technologies. And a really nice case study here is Jordan is an engineer, both a software and a hardware engineer, so he's a real hybrid. But you're going to see here that someone that spent hours and hours using our simulators is actually not a bad surgeon, to be honest. So you're going to see a real case study of how well this works. Now, before we get into loading up the application, this piece of hardware is a plastic box. There is a webcam sitting on side there. Everything you see that isn't this Dell laptop is made in the northwest of the UK and shipped to 72 countries globally. The next really cool thing to mention is there is a single webcam on top of this simulator, which is powering all of the graphics that you're going to see, and it's allowing us to capture a load of data from our instruments using computer vision algorithms. So there's some really, really cool tech underneath the hood. And the reason I've sent these little models around is there's another really cool piece of tech, which is we are operating on real models, so it gives us that ability to feel what it should feel like in real life. And Jordan, if you fire this up and start showing us, the guys will be able to see. So I mentioned that VR simulation doesn't let us feel what it should really feel like in real life, but our approach to augmented reality does. So these models you're going to see, first of all, make it feel real. The next thing you're going to see is they've got a little chip in them. So when they come around, have a little look at the chip. Because that little chip in the model allows us to connect this model with our native application. And so we're allowed to do things like trigger complications from the real environment in the digital. And we're going to show you that in a minute. Now, if Jordan just pauses for me. That model there is sitting inside the simulator, and then we've built a digital environment around it. And now on screen, we're in a scenario where this is super immersive. So this is what we call an appendectomy. So we're looking to take someone's appendix out. And the most important part of doing an appendectomy is working through the steps of going down, cutting through what we call this mesoappendix, which is this little bit of yellow that you can see. And by the way, sorry, people that are on the Zoom call, I'm sorry you may not be able to see some of this and you don't get the models in your hand. But Jordan is now operating on a really realistic feeling tissue. So he gets the tissue tension. It feels like it should do in real life. He also feels how it should be when he's cutting through tissues. And now you've seen, of course, when he's cutting through blood vessels. And I'm glad he's cut through that blood vessel because it shows you that piece of technology in those chips that we've just sent around to you. So that little chip in the medical model is what's allowed Jordan cutting through a blood vessel to communicate with the software, and then it's triggered a digital complication. So this is a really, really unique approach to augmented reality. And again, for those that are on the Zoom call, Jordan's not wearing a headset. This is all coming through an off-the-shelf laptop. And actually, while we're talking about this being on an off-the-shelf laptop, the important thing to remember here is that although Jordan's in this convention center right now, he could be at home. And this is a really important thing for us to touch on in terms of why this is a trailblazing technology. We've been developing this technology for 2 years when COVID hit last year. And as you can probably imagine, it was all hands to the pump when it came to delivering patient care in the hospitals. But what this meant is that none of our surgeons were actually getting any time to operate. And our traditional approach to training, the apprenticeship model, standing next to each other, either in theatre or at conferences, had to go away. And so we accelerated this to market, and in June of last year, we launched this, and it has now been adopted as a national training program facilitator by major medtech companies such as Olympus, and also the major societies in the UK, like the British Society for Gynecological Endoscopy. And one of the reasons why it's been adopted so quickly is you can see that we are able to stick anything inside this simulator. So again, one of the limitations with VR is you just have these sort of avatar instruments, which aren't really the real instrument you're using in real life. Jordan is putting real instruments into the simulator that he would use in real life. So he gets a feeling for what an instrument should feel like in his hand. He gets to use these specialist instruments. This is what we call an endo loop. And Johnson & Johnson can thank me later for that plug because it is a brand name. But this goes into the simulator and it allows them, the surgeon to actually feel like, well, how should this actual instrument feel when I'm using it, unlike a virtual reality product. So Jordan's just placing his endo loop here, and then eventually he's going to tell the software that he's placed that loop by interacting with the screen. I should probably go back to the tech a little bit here because I know that's why we're here. This is the computer vision working, which you're going to see in a minute when Jordan hovers over this button. And yeah, it's not going to let us down. That's great. So we're using computer vision to track our instruments, but we're also using computer vision to allow our instruments to action on-screen buttons, because not only is it important for surgeons to feel how the simulation should work or feel how the procedure should work, but it's really important for them to think about the cognitive steps of a procedure. So they mustn't forget that actually I need to place 3 of these loops on this appendix before I take it off. And having those buttons on screen are there as those cognitive prompts to say, look, yeah, you may have done this in real life, but you need to tell me as the software that I've actually done this. So that allows the surgeon to do their cognitive prompts as they go through. I'm not going to make Jordan put 3 endo loops on there because that's unfair. Once he's done that, he's then going to go through and he's going to go ahead and complete the procedure. Now, one thing I didn't touch on is the computer vision. Traditional ways of tracking instrumentation in simulation use fiducial markers or color markers, and they allow us to track in maybe 2 dimensions, and they don't give us very rich data. As you can probably imagine, as surgeons, we quite like accuracy, and we quite like pretty good quality data. So what we have built is our own proprietary computer vision algorithms that allow us to track the entire shaft of the instrument, giving us data in 3 dimensions and giving us really rich data. And that data goes into our web-based application, which is our learning management system, which Jordan is going to bring up now. So I just want to touch on those courses that we've been running during COVID. Those courses that we would have traditionally run pre-COVID, where you'd have 20 surgeons in a room with senior surgeons standing over the shoulder of a junior surgeon saying, we've not done that right, that was rubbish, do this better. They do say some positive things, like we're going to lunch, and you can have a beer at the bar later. But we lost that in COVID, and actually we're also losing it quite a lot traditionally pre-COVID in the way we're delivering surgical education. And this is where this learning management system or the web application comes in. So I appreciate that we're stuck for time, and normally this demo actually takes an hour and a half. So what I want to show you is a couple of things. First of all is the statistics, because I've been talking about the computer vision tracking there. So Jordan's going to go in and he's going to show us some stats for a procedure. There are certain things we like to measure, which tell us how well someone has done surgery. This is how well they're handling these instruments. So these are things like, how quickly are you moving it? You don't want to be too fast. How far are you moving the instrument? The further you move the instrument, that means you've gone all around the shop to get to where you need to go. So you want to do less movement, which is better. Also, am I accelerating the instrument too quickly? Because if you accelerate an instrument and it's got some sharp scissors on the end and you knock into a structure and start making it bleed, that's not very good. So these metrics are really important for showing us how well someone's performing surgery. And we're pulling those metrics off our computer vision, and I'll just go back one step, off a plastic box with a webcam in it that's also doing a load of AR on an off-the-shelf laptop, which is just something I want to hammer home, because when we came up with this vision, and it's actually Jordan, you've got the man on the stage who came up with this vision, we took this to a number of providers to help us build our first usable prototype, and they all said, you're mad, that's never going to work, because the technology just isn't there. And I just really want to hammer home that this technology really doesn't have any right to exist and actually work, but we've got a really, really clever team that have managed to bring this to fruition. So coming back to the data, the computer vision algorithms are pulling data off, and it's sending it into this web app. So Jordan's just done a procedure there, and it's pinged the data straight into the app. Now, data is useful, and objective measurement is useful, but this still hasn't replaced that bit I was talking about where the senior surgeon is standing over the junior surgeon's shoulder saying, you've done crap there, this is how to do it better. And that's where our video capture and debrief software comes in. So whilst Jordan was in that native app, he could have selected to record his procedure. And again, I'm just going to say, Jordan could be at home, wherever he may well be, recording his procedure, and his senior surgeon could be anywhere in the world, because this web application, you don't need to be on the same simulator, you can load it up on the internet. And so he can record his video, and then firstly, and most importantly, as the surgeon, he can watch it back. Jordan and I are both from sporting backgrounds, so we understand the importance of looking at the game tape. And so this, first and foremost, is the game tape for the junior surgeon, looking at how did I perform? Actually, that, you know what, I didn't do that well there. If I was the senior surgeon, I'd tell me I'm a bit rubbish there as well. But just looking at it on your own, we may not know what we don't know. So we need to be able to get the feedback from the surgeon who wasn't in the room. We must replace that over-the-shoulder help. So that's where Jordan can now send a request into a more senior surgeon to say, here's my video that I've just done in my living room. I may have had a glass of wine or two. Please, can you review this and tell me how well I have performed? And that subjective feedback is really, really important. So Jordan can send this feedback request off, and then he's going to go and open up a video that will show you how we then deliver that feedback, because this is a full loop platform. We're not missing any of these bits here. So Jordan's just going to go and open up another video, and then he's going to show you that we have a system that allows us to annotate the videos, and that will timestamp all of our annotation and feedback, which means that if I'm a junior surgeon and I took an hour and a half to do an appendicectomy, I may not want to sit through an hour and a half's worth of video to find my feedback. So our little timestamp will tell us where it all is. The other really cool thing about this is we have a distance certification platform called an OSATS. That's an acronym that we use in healthcare, and it's an approach for delivering feedback and certification. We've built that platform into this. And what that's allowing us to do now is partner with the likes of the British Society for Gynecological Endoscopy, the Royal Colleges of Surgeons, and the Royal Colleges of Obstetrics and Gynecology to deliver national training programs at distance against COVID, but also into the future. And that's a really important thing to mention here, which is our is the OSATS feature, which I think we'll be bringing up momentarily.
Just trying to find it.
Oh, it's just trying to find it. There you go. How far are we going? 13 minutes, and it's the first little hitch on the tech demo. So he may just do a sign back in here. Now, that's a real whistle-stop tour. There are a few other elements to this platform which are really exciting as well, which is our task management and really the learning management system around this, which allows senior surgeons to guide the training of the junior surgeons. Again, they don't have to be standing over each other's shoulders. So they can set a number of tasks, and they can see how that junior is working through the tasks over time. And again, the three pieces of technology are all linked up together. So I'm in the web application as a senior surgeon. I've set 5 appendicectomies for my junior surgeon, and then the junior surgeon will log in to their own native application on their laptop, use their simulator, and each time they do one, it's going to tick it off and tell the senior surgeon that they've done it, so that they can all just have a nice, easy platform to go in and see how well they're performing. Now, while Jordan's playing in the back end, and there's a whole hell of a lot of stuff here that we won't go into, where we've built a back end that allows management of systems and hardware and models, I just want to talk about the technology in the hardware again, because it is something that we're super proud of, but it's something that has completely changed the way we're delivering surgical simulation education. I know I've got a minute and a half left, so I'm just going to touch on it really quickly. A major difference between this technology and the pre-existing incumbents is the fact that I can stick any instrument in that simulator and use it. And so big medical technology companies who make all these amazing pieces of technology for surgeons to use, need ways to teach us safely how to use them. And you cannot use a virtual reality simulator to do that because you can't put their instrument inside a computer. Whereas you can put an Ethicon instrument inside this box, you can put a Medtronic instrument inside this box, you can put an Olympus instrument inside this box, and you can actually use whatever that instrument is. If it's an energy device, if it's a cold cutting device, you can cut our models and safely show people how to use that. So not only are we teaching surgeons how to do their procedures, but we're teaching them how to safely use all the technology that's being used on you lot, who are the patients. So I think, from me, that's everything. I think we've got 40 seconds or so left, and hopefully we'll be able to field some very quick questions if that's allowed. I'm not sure if that's actually allowed, but if it is, then we'll take some questions. Thank you very much for listening to us both, and we'll be out there for you to get a little hands-on play with it later.